Hey everyone, I hope everybody's having a good day today. It is Monday and I know this is the video that you guys have been waiting for. So I am going to go ahead and go into some tips on how to repair your credit. Now, just a little background. This is something that I do on the side to make extra money. So basically you're going to get these tips for free, so definitely use them because they work. I have repaired my own credit. I've repaired family members' credit reports. I have done other people's credit reports, so I definitely know what I'm talking about, and the things that I'm going to tell you can definitely increase your score by 10 to 30 to 40 points. So definitely listen to the video, do what I tell you to do, and you will have better credit than where you started today. So let's go ahead and hop into it. Excuse my attire today. I've been cleaning around the house and doing other stuff, and so I decided to just go ahead and make this video real quick, hence the what I got. Yeah. So, just, excuse all of this. Yeah, this is what I look like when I'm cleaning house, basically. Okay, so number one, the first thing you want to do is sign up on a website where you can access all 3 credit reports and all 3 credit scores, like True Credit or Credit Karma. There are a lot of other ones out there, so definitely compare the prices. I would also consider, when you start it, something that you may want to keep and pay monthly on, so that you have unlimited access to your credit report and credit scores all the time. So not only look at
the introductory fee, introductory free. I can't speak. So also look at the introductory fee
and the monthly fee. So, and of course they're going to differ. Some of them charge you $30, for the first time, going into the site to access all 3, and then maybe like $12 a month. Some of them may offer, $12 a month to come in and $12 a month, So definitely look at all that, because you want to keep up with your credit from this point on. You want to definitely be able to pull your credit reports and all 3 credit scores whenever you want to, because you can pull your credit as much as you want, and it won't do any damage to your credit report whatsoever. It's only when other companies pull your credit report where points sometimes get involved. And how many points depends on how they pull your credit report. So just a little background on credit reports. A little snippet is that there are hard pulls and soft pulls. Some places you go, like when you're trying to get a new cell phone or a cell phone plan, like if you go to Sprint or Verizon and they pull your credit report, they will do a soft pull most likely, because they don't want to know all of your credit history. They just want to know just some things about your credit history, certain things that they're looking for. They don't care about your medical bills and things like that. They don't care really about how much debt you're in. Really, they're just looking for to see if you've had them in the past and you still got a bill outstanding with them that you've never paid. Now, places that might pull a hard pull on your credit report are apartments. When you're trying to buy a home, get a car, they're going to do a hard pull, because they actually want to know how much debt you're in. They want to know if you're able to pay them even with the debt that you already have. So they'll do a hard pull. Soft pulls don't do that much to your credit report. They can range anywhere from maybe like 3 points to 5 points. A hard pull usually is 10 points or more. So definitely try to stay away from the hard pulls. Only do a hard pull when you are ready to go. Like you have everything laid out, you know what you need to do, you got your money and everything else, and no matter what they say, you can move forward. So only do a hard pull when you can afford to do that. All right, to your credit report. Another thing about credit reports nowadays that's different from how it was a long time ago is that before, if you were a day late, 2 days late, a week late, credit card companies could report you late to the credit report. And maybe you were only like 3 days late. Maybe you forgot the due date and you called and you paid it in full, or at least paid the minimum or a little bit above. And they would just report you immediately. Now, credit card companies no longer can do that. They can only report you if you're 30 days or more late. So, if you're having trouble paying your bills due to unemployment, disability, or anything like that, just know that you have 30 days to pay that bill before they can report you to your credit report. That's a little helpful, basically, because if you have certain bills that are more important than others, you can really kind of make a payment on it. You could probably do $20 a week, and as long as you've paid that minimum by that 30-day mark, they can't report you. So just something you may want to just keep in mind moving forward. You don't want to, of course, go over 30 days late, because once you go over 30 days late, then they can report you to your credit report, and then it's basically all downhill from there. Now, once you've signed up on some credit websites, or at least you just need one, really, then that's when we're going into the repair mode. And what you're going to need is a pencil, paper, and you're definitely going to need a highlighter, and you're going to want to print out all 3 credit reports. Not necessarily the credit scores, but all 3 credit reports you're going to want to print out, okay? Because a hard copy is a lot easier to deal with than the computer version for what we're going to do, because you're going to do some writing, obviously, which is why you have a pencil. Definitely use a pencil and not a pen, because you can make mistakes and it'll just be easier for you to erase rather than have to scribble it out and rewrite it all over again. Definitely make sure the credit website that you joined allows you to dispute online. That is the quickest way for you to do a dispute for what we're going to do, rather than you have to mail it in, because that takes longer, and it's just a headache of a process, really. So see if you can definitely dispute online. That is also another important thing that you're going to want to look for when looking for a credit card website. Now, something that you're going to have to know when it comes to your credit report is that all 3 credit reports are going to have different information. The scores are going to be different. All 3 are going to have, different late payments if you have any, different collections if you have any, different judgments if you have any. So just keep in mind that that's normal. It's completely normal. Don't freak out about it. That's what some of the process of what I'm going to tell you to do is going to help with that situation. The next thing you're going to want to do is cross out any duplicates. So lay out all 3 credit reports, or at least get 2 of them side by side. But if you can do all 3, great. And start with the first page on all 3. Sit at the table where you have enough room, maybe the kitchen table, not your desk, unless your desk is huge and you can do that. And just basically start crossing out, looking for the first, like say you have Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. Start with Equifax and see what the first creditor is, and then look at Experian and TransUnion and find that same creditor in those reports. See if the information matches up. If it doesn't match up, you want to go ahead and highlight it. That's correct. This is where the highlighter comes in. Highlight it. You're going to want to cross out with the pencil anything that is in good standing, because we don't care about the stuff in good standing. We want to rectify the stuff that's in bad standing. So anything that's in good standing, cross out with that pencil. Go ahead and cross it out. We don't need to see it. We don't even need it. We're happy about those. We don't care about those for this purpose. The highlighter is used for the things that we are going to dispute, pay off, try to settle, etc., and what we're about to talk about. So we want to highlight anything that's different, highlight anything that's bad, highlight anything that we want to dispute, and move forward that way. Another thing you're going to want to do with all three credit reports, grab your bills, your most current bills. If you have bills from a collection agency, if you have bills from a company threatening to send you to a collection agency, grab those. If you have bills that are late, grab those. The one thing you also want to do is check and make sure and see if any of these bills have hit your credit report. Again, I'm going to give you a tip regarding that as well. But we definitely want to see if any of those bills are on your credit report, because sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're not. So keep that in mind. Grab your bills, set those also to the side, and we're going to get working on this right now. Now, on your piece of paper, I want you to go ahead and write Equifax, Experian, or TransUnion, depending on how many, as a header, depending on how many items you have. Either they're going to be one sheet Equifax, one sheet Experian, one sheet TransUnion, or you may be able to put it in columns all on one sheet. Regardless, we need to write it and have them as a header, because now the things that we've highlighted, we're going to go ahead and write down under each credit report what we need to dispute. The printing of the credit reports was just for the purpose of highlighting and crossing out, but we don't want to have to keep going through all these sheets of paper. It's gonna become too messy and too disorganized, and you're gonna get confused. So we want to write it on a separate sheet of paper, 3 sheets if you need them, 1 sheet if you can do it, and we don't want to write all huge or anything. We just basically want to write down the creditor name, the account number, which is on the credit report. Either they're going to give you the last 4 or they're going to give you the whole credit card number or account number. And then we want to make a little note to ourselves exactly what we're disputing. That's very important. Either you're going to be disputing the balance, either you're going to be disputing the credit limit that they're stating that you have, or you're going to dispute how many times you were late, if you were late, if any, or we're going to dispute that it wasn't yours to begin with and you don't owe the debt. So those are the most important things. Definitely write down what you're going to dispute, because again, we don't want to keep all these credit reports just laying out. They're just going to get in the way. So do it this way. It becomes more simple, more simplified as we move on. A lot more ease to this. Now it's time to see what bills you're going to pay first. Which bills are priority over other bills? For instance, let's say you have bills that are in collections, or at least it says that it's with a collection agency, but when you look on your credit reports, it's not on there. That bill is going to take priority over any other bill, because you don't want it to hit your credit report. So if it's not on there yet, that's a good thing. We want to pay it before it gets to your credit report, okay? So, and I'm going to tell you how to do that and how you're going to pay it. But those are going to be priority. Any bills that threaten that they're going to send you to collections, or any bills that you are late on and they're not on your credit report, are going to take priority. The ones on your credit report are last. Point blank. They're already there. So we'll deal with those in a minute. But we want to stop the ones that could potentially go before they go. Very important. Okay? Bills that are with a collection agency but not on your credit report yet, we want to pay, and how we want to pay it is the most important thing. We don't want to call the collection agency to pay it. No, stop. Do not call the collection agency to pay it. That is super, super, super important. They're not on your credit report yet. If we can pay the company directly, that saves the company actually money. So they would love to take a payment from you, because they have to pay this outside source to collect money from you. They have to pay them for their collection activity that they do to collect from you. You know that saying, this is an attempt to collect a debt. Any information obtained for this purpose will be used for this purpose, or whatever the ending is. I used to do collections, I know. So believe it or not, over 10 years ago, I used to do collections, and I still remember that phrase because you had to say it legally on every phone call. Every single phone call. So anyway, super annoying. That's usually when you got hung up on, is when you were saying that spiel. People would just hang up because they knew they weren't going to pay. So again, the company would love to take your money because then they can pull your name back from the collection agency for them not to attempt to collect that debt, which saves them money. So again, do not call the collection agency if it's not on your credit report. Call the company first. Very important. Now, if you call the company and they say to you, well, we've already sent it to collections, we can't take your payment, so you need to call them directly. Don't give up just yet. Let's say you went into this knowing that you couldn't pay it in full, but you could pay something and hopefully make it go away. Now, this is where it's going to become a little tricky. This is where you have to treat the bill basically like a car salesman. When you go to buy a car, what's the first thing you do? You never go for the sticker price. You want to haggle. You don't want to pay what's written on the car. You want to pay less than what's written on the car. So that's what you're going to do with the creditor or collection agency. Well, we're talking to the creditor right now. We're going to do the same thing with the collection agency, but hold on, we'll get there. So the first thing you want to say is, well, wait a second. I know you have to pay this company to collect the debt on me. So wouldn't it just be easier if I pay you and then you don't have to pay them to collect this debt? I'd actually be willing to pay. Now, this is where you go in. Let's say you were only willing to pay half of it. Start with half of it. I can give you, let's say the bill is $800. I can give you $400 today if you just pull it back from the collection agency, and I can just be done with it. Now, depending on who you're talking to, either they're going to have authorization to say yes, or they're going to say, well, I need to speak to my manager. Can I give you a call back? That's fine. Give them your number. Have them call you back. If they call you back and they say, well, my manager says that's not good enough, we really need the whole thing in full, then this is where you play sympathy card. Sympathy card comes in right here. Well, I can't really afford to pay you the whole thing. Let's say the total bill is $800, but what if I give you like $600? Do you think your manager would go for that? Again, you're just trying not to pay the whole thing because maybe you really don't have the $800, or maybe you have the $800, but you're like, look, I got this other bill I got to pay too, so I can't afford to pay you the whole $800, and I got another $200 I got to pay over here. So that's why we haggle. So again, either that person is going to have authorization and they've already gotten it from their manager stating, okay, this is the amount we'll go for if they're willing to pay it. Or they're going to say, well, let me talk to my manager again and I'll give you a call back. Again, we don't care. Let them call you back. But only give them 24 hours. Again, they said they've already sent it to collections. You've pulled your credit report. It's not on there. At some point in time, it's going to hit your credit report. So don't let this associate or employee call you back a week later. You want to stay on top of this. So set an alarm in your cell phone that on your lunch break, you need to call such and such or whatever company and ask for such and such so you can get this straight, because you want to pay it as soon as possible so they can pull it back from the collections agency and it doesn't go on your credit report. You cannot slack off in this area whatsoever. Definitely keep on them. Write down people's names of who you speak to. If they have an extension, ask them for their extension. If they have an employee ID number or op ID to where you can get someone else and ask for them specifically by using this number and they can transfer you, it's important to get. Or if it's a common name like Nicole or Crystal, or, just a name that you hear a lot that's common, ask them for the first initial of their last name. Just something to like put more of a location and an identity to who you're speaking to. Because if you call back and say, hey, I was speaking to Crystal last week, well, sir, we have like 50 locations and we've probably got over 100 Crystals. Do you know who you were talking to? At least you can say, well, she works out of this location. Her first initial to her last name is this. This is, have as much information as possible, because when you get to management, if you need to get to management, they can do an employee search and see where this person was that you talked to, and indeed either send them an email or Skype them. A lot of people or a lot of companies have instant messenger nowadays, where they can instant message the person or another coworker or employee and talk to them in real time without having to use the phone. So it's super, super important that you get as much identification as possible to the person that you're speaking to. Now, once you've haggled, or let's say they're just not going for anything that you're saying, okay, nothing. You're throwing out balls and they want the payment in full. Pay it in full. That's it. I have nothing else to say. Even if you throw out, well, what if I do a payment plan? Always throw out a payment plan too. Actually, I would throw out the payment plan before offering to even pay half, which was the first thing that I told you to do. Payment plans are better. At least you have more money to put towards other bills that you have. And definitely start off with a reasonable amount that you can do. I don't care if it's $25 or $30 a month. If that's what you can do, that's what you offer them. Then go to half, then go to, $600. And then again, if none of that works after all of your haggling, then if you have to pay it in full, pay it in full. Also, if the person you're talking to doesn't have authorization and they keep telling you they have to call you back, ask for the manager's information so you can talk to the manager directly and play that sympathy card. Because if you don't want to keep going back and forth with a person that can't tell you yay or nay right there while you're on the phone, and plus you don't know how they're relaying the information to their manager, you want to actually be able to speak to the manager so they can hear your voice, hear maybe what you're going through, understand where you're coming from. A lot of people have been in a lot of different situations to where not everybody has always been able to pay their bills. Life happens, okay? So some of them are really, really willing to work with you. So definitely talk to the manager if you can. Play that sympathy card hard. And again, if it gets nowhere and you have to pay it in full, then pay it in full. Ask them how much time you have to pay it in full, because sometimes they know exactly when they sent it to the credit bureau, and to the collection agency. The collection agency will sometimes take 30 days or 60 days before they report it to the credit report. If they've tried to call you, you haven't answered their phone call, if you haven't spoken to them and said, let me call you back, or can I set up a payment plan or something, then they'll go ahead and roll it over to the credit report if they have no contact with you whatsoever. So definitely try to find out how much time you have, so that way you can kind of judge on how you want to send the money and how much you want to send at each time if you're not able to pay the $800 all at once, or however much the bill is. Okay, so definitely keep in mind the tip. The most important thing is, if the bill hasn't hit your credit report and it is with the collection agency, call the creditor first. So again, if the bill is from AT&T and they said they've sent the bill to the collection agency, and the bill that you have is from the collection agency and it says that the creditor is AT&T, you pulled your credit report, it's not on there, call AT&T. Don't call the collection agency. You want to call the collection agency only if it's already on your credit report, because then We don't care about AT&T at that point. We don't need to speak to AT&T. They've already paid this collection agency to deal with you. It's already on your credit report. We don't want to call them anymore. There's nothing they can do for you. So we need to deal with the collection agency from that point on, if it's on your credit report. Definitely super, super, super important. Okay, so the next thing you want to do is, or really the next tip that I'm going to give you, which may lead to the next thing that you do. So me personally, I have had an apartment on my credit report. Literally, it was on my credit report. And so I didn't want it on there. I did not, I needed it not to be on there so I could rent somewhere else, because rental places will look at that and won't rent to you if you owe another apartment community some money. Also, it's another debt that you don't want to have on your credit report. And I was able to get it deleted just by saying this simple phrase. Ready? I will pay it in full today if you delete it off my credit report. That's right. That's what I said. That's the one sentence that I said. I will pay it today in full if you delete it off of my credit report. Do you know it was with the collection agency? It was on my credit report. I actually asked for a letter. They agreed to it. Anything that a collection agency agrees to, get in writing. Do not pay a collection agency, or if you haggle and you get to a certain agreement, do not pay them any money until you get it in writing. So the first thing I said was, but before I pay you, I'm going to need it in writing. I'm going to need that if I pay you the amount in full, you will delete it off of my credit report. You can email it to me or you can mail it to me. If you email it to me and I open it up and it's on letterhead and it's signed, I will call you back in an hour and pay it in full. So that's exactly what they did. And I printed out that letter. I kept the email and put it in a folder so it would never be deleted. And I paid them in full. I also waited 30 days, pulled my credit report again, and it was gone. And I pulled all three, and it was gone. It was no longer on there. Don't let a collection agency tell you that they are unable to take something off of your credit report. If they put it on there, they can take it off. So don't let them get away with that. Especially credit cards, medical bills. Sometimes that doctor's office, with bigger organizations, it's a little bit more difficult. But if it's just a single doctor or it's a group and it's a doctor's office and they have a biller and coder that works in that office who also is the one who sends out things to collections, they can pull it. They can pull it. They can call the collection agency and ask for it to be deleted. The collection agency can also delete it without having to get their permission, or the doctor's office or the entity's permission. Bigger organizations, not so much. But apartment communities, again, they're not really big organizations. They're really kind of small, unless they're really well known and like they have branches everywhere. Then you can usually get stuff like that deleted or taken off. So just FYI, always haggle with them. Definitely, but you want to haggle with everybody, and always throw out there you'd be willing to pay them if they get it taken off your credit report. Another thing you want to know or do, also ask for, I guess it's all three, is if you settle with a collection agency and you settle for less than what's actually owed, tell them you don't want settled in full on your credit report. You want paid in full on your credit report, because settled in full also kind of hurts you as well, because to other creditors it looks like, oh, okay, so you had this $800 bill, or you ran up $800 on a credit card, it went to collections, and then you couldn't even pay it? I mean, life happens. We know this. I know this. But when it comes to creditors and those people that work for those big credit card companies, they don't care. They really don't. Sometimes you can play the sympathy card and it gets you nowhere, especially with credit cards. So with little entities like apartment communities, medical bills, sympathy card sometimes, definitely, 85% of the time works. Credit card companies, not so much. But I'm going to tell you how to repair a credit card or get it deleted. Hopefully, it's happened to me. It's happened to people that I fixed their credit reports for. So regardless that we're not talking to them and we can't haggle and we can't get it deleted, that's not really a big deal. We can probably, we can get it deleted, but not the way that we can with smaller entities. We got to go about it a different way. So that's where this comes into play. How to get something deleted off of your credit report. So you know that list that we've made, because we've already gone through the bills. We've already prioritized and called these places directly if they're not on your credit report and haggled for less, or we had to wind up paying what we have owed to either get it deleted off your credit report, get it paid in full on your credit report, even if you settled. And again, some some collection agencies and smaller entities will only do the paid in full when you've settled in full, if you settle for at least an amount close to the total amount that you owe. So very rare, if you have an $800 bill and you settle for half, which is $400, will they agree to put paid in full on your credit report? They're going to say most likely no, we're going to put settled in full. But if you say you settled for $600 on an $800 bill, most places will agree to putting paid in full on your credit report, because they're only losing $200 rather than $400. You get it? So understand that. Now, we've got our sheet with Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, right? We already have our list of things that we want to dispute. Now, this is where a little trick comes into play. Let's say you have all this stuff, medical bills, credit card companies, everything, and some of them's late, or you have judgments. Some of them is late, some of them they're with the courthouse, some of them are with collections. What do you do? This is what you do. We've already taken care of the ones that are not on your credit report. Now we're going to take care of the ones that are on your credit report. The first thing you want to do is you want to look at all of the credit cards. All of them. The ones that you were late on, the ones that you have a balance on, but they're not with collection agencies yet, because again, credit card companies are a little bit different to deal with than smaller entities. So let's say you have a credit card company that you owe money to and it shows that you have a balance and the account is closed, but you haven't gotten a bill from a collections agency, so you don't really know where it's at if you were to pay it. I mean, it could still be with the credit card company, but chances are if you call them, they're going to say that it's already been sent to a different department or another entity to collect, etc. So what you want to do to buy you some time is you want to dispute it. Regardless if you know that it's yours, regardless that you know that it's correct, you want to dispute it. Another thing that you need to know is that credit card companies and any entity that is on your credit report only has 30 days to prove that the debt is actually yours, that the debt that is listed is correct, that the amount that is listed is correct. They have 30 days. Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion only gives those creditors 30 days to respond. If those creditors do not respond in 30 days, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion have to delete it. They have to. It can no longer show up. And it doesn't matter if on the 35th day the creditor responds to the credit report company or Equifax TransUnion and say, oh, here's your information. I'm sorry we're a little late. It's already gone. They can't do nothing about it. They can't even put it back on there if they wanted to. It's gone. It's kind of like that double jeopardy thing. If you've ever heard of, like, you can't be charged for the same crime twice, that's kind of how it happens on your credit report. They can't put it back on there. We gave you 30 days to respond. You decided not to respond within that time frame, so we deleted it. So you want to dispute basically everything that's in bad standings, not the stuff that's in good standing, but the stuff that is basically late or in collections, not judgments, but late and in collections. You want to dispute it. The account is closed. You can't charge on the card anymore. You can't do anything with it. Heck, you might have even cut up the card and you don't even know what the account number is anymore. Dispute it.
Prove it. Prove that it's mine. How do you know it's mine? I might have forgot that it was mine. Is that really the balance? I don't know if I own that balance. I don't know. You got to show and prove to me that I owe that.
So, that's what you want to do. That also buys you time. Now you have 30 days. 30 days to work with everything that you have on your credit report, because your credit report is updated every 30 days. So now we've disputed all of this stuff that we're saying.
And prove it. Prove it. I don't know. You could be lying. You need to tell me. Prove to me. I need some receipts. Some receipts. Show me them receipts. Hell, I don't even got my receipts anymore. Show me some receipts.
You are waiting. You have them 30 days to do, or the 30 days for them to show and prove to you that you actually do owe that debt. Now, let's just say that we know that we owe the debt, but we still want them to prove it, okay? This is when you have time to go ahead and try to haggle, call collection agencies, because collection agencies, even though, and that's another thing that's really hard to prove. When it's already in a collect or with the collection agency, it's hard for a collection agency to tell the credit report or prove to the credit report or give receipts to the credit report that you actually owe the debt. Because the information that they get from the creditor is not that extensive. It's not that in-depth. The creditor gives the collection agency your name, your demographic information, how much you owe. Sometimes, well, no, because that's skip tracing. That's what we did at the collection. So basically, that's really it. That's all they do. And they get it on the list. I mean, that's it. They don't know when the last time you charged on that card. They don't know what you brought. They don't know how many, they don't know any of that. And the collections agency, which is what I used to work for, we used to do this thing called skip tracing. Skip tracing is when we would run your name through the internet or through a computer and we could find out your next of kin. Your brother, your sister, your mama, and we could call them and try to collect the debt from them for you. We could do that. We could also find out your last phone number, your last address. This is how we find out if you've moved. We can send you your new bill to your new address. You think you running, you hiding, you're not. So it's called skip tracing. That is what we used to do. So back to what I was saying though, because it's a little bit off subject. They don't know or have receipts to really prove that the debt is yours. That's why a lot of things get deleted, because then the collection agency has to contact the creditor to get those receipts. The creditor, it may take them, depending on how old the debt is, they may have to go through this department, that department, it's in the warehouse, it's from umpteen years ago, whatever, especially if it's really, really old. If it's really, really old, you're in the gold. That's a key thing to remember. If it's really, really old, you're in the gold. Because most likely it's stored in a warehouse, off-site, something that they can't even get you, or it's in an old program. They probably changed computer programs 3 or 4 times in that 7 or 10 years that this debt, how old this debt is. And they don't even have access to that information anymore. Hence, it gets deleted. Something you should know. So if it's really, really old, you're in the gold. So remember that if it's with a collection agency, you still want to dispute it, even if you think or you know that you owe that debt, because most likely they're not going to be able to show them receipts to keep it on there. All right, so the next thing you want to do is in those 30 days, like I said, it's going through the dispute process. Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian will send you an updated credit report after the dispute is done. Now, while they're disputing, again, if you know the debt isn't really, really old and you're not in the gold and it's more new, you want to try to, as quickly as possible, settle in full, get it removed, or paid in full as soon as possible while that process is taking effect, basically. So that way when they roll out the new credit report, the updated credit report with the things that they deleted or the things that have been updated, that can be updated on that new credit report, showing that you no longer owe the debt, which is wonderful. Or if you're able to talk the place into deleting it altogether because you've paid a certain amount or whatever, that means that because now it's in dispute. Now the credit report agencies are asking this company to give them receipts. They're working on getting those receipts. In the meantime, you're working on getting it taken off.
Hey, yeah, I need it taken off.
So by the time they give the information to the credit bureaus,
You, yeah, there's coming out.
the credit card companies, then there's no information to give. Oh, you can take it off, delete it. We've already settled, we talked to her, take it off. It's gone. It's gone, never to be seen again. Another thing you want to remember is anything that's 7 years or older that's on your credit report should be removed. Credit card companies and really more of the credit bureaus are not good at keeping up with stuff that should be deleted. They're quick to throw something on there that you owe, but not so quick to take it off. So if there's anything on there that's 7 years or more, don't fool with it. Put it in dispute, and they have to take it off. They have to delete it, dispute it. Don't even call the creditor. Don't bother to call the collection agency. It's 7 years or older. You don't owe that debt anymore. So therefore, maybe I shouldn't say you don't owe the debt anymore, but let's say it like this. Who cares about that debt anymore?
Who cares about that debt?
It's old. You're in the gold. So they have to remove it. Period. So the next thing and last thing that I think I want to tell you is about judgments. Now, usually judgments are on there and they're through a courthouse. So that means that there is extensive paperwork regarding that judgment, and it's in a courthouse. Now, sometimes you're in the gold works with judgments a little bit, depending on if they were still if you were in a paper file and that's how old it was, where it's probably, like I said, in a warehouse offsite somewhere or in an old system that's going to take them forever to try to find. Sometimes you're okay in that area, old in the gold, but in other areas, not so much, because courthouses and the legal system, well, they've got stuff in place to make sure that they have the correct information. So when it comes to a judgment, really what you want to try to do is call the courthouse. Don't call the creditor. They don't care. They've already gone to court about this. They've gone to a judge about it. They've had attorney's fees or legal fees. They really don't even want to deal with you because they've had to spend so much money just getting it put on your credit report that they're not going to want to talk to you. They're not. They're bitter. And they're going to be petty. Real petty. So the thing you want to do is call the courthouse. If you're lucky enough to get somebody, well, I've had experiences with young ones and old ones. I will say this. You can play the sympathy card with old people and young people, because even young people nowadays have gone through things. And so, well, some of them, unless they're, the golden child and basically had a silver spoon in their mouth their whole life and they've never had a worry or a care. But most times they have gone through stuff. So sometimes you can play the sympathy card. It's just going to depend on what type of sympathy card that you play. So, for instance, an older person may know what it's like to basically be unemployed or be a single mom or have kids and not have that much money, etc., etc. Or understand that, hey, your husband's out of work and you're the only one working, and toughest things are hard. So an older person may definitely understand that. A younger person, depending on their situation and how young they are, may not. A younger person would definitely understand, though, maybe the unemployment aspect of, yeah, I just got out of college, I'm trying to find this job, or, I had to leave this job, or I moved, or they may understand that type of sympathy card. So really, with the age of the person, you have to decide on what type of sympathy card you're going to play. Regardless, play it. Play that hand. Like, you got the Joker and can nobody stop you. All right? So you play that card. All right? And see where it gets you. Sometimes, like I said, the judgment is so old that there's nothing that they can do about it. Like, they may even offer to just take it off your credit report. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Sometimes they can pull it and see that it's owed. And usually with a judgment, you have to pay it in full. There is no settled in full. You have to pay it in full. Period. Because you owe a person or a company, they lost this full amount. It's not like a bigger entity, because the bigger entities are not going to really worry about putting a judgment on your credit report. They have thousands and thousands of credit card holders. I mean, they'll just send you to collections. They're not going to put a judgment on you, but a judgment can come from other places. Smaller entities that really, really need that money, and they don't mind going to court. And they may even have someone in that office, like a biller or a coder or somebody that can take the time to go to the courthouse. They go there with all their files and they say, I need to file a judgment on all of these people. And they take the time and they will show up to each court date and they will show and everything, because they are assigned to do that. So just keep that in mind. Judgments are kind of 50-50. But you can try to dispute a judgment if you want to, depending on how old it is. You can treat it like the other bigger entities. Definitely, I would never tell you not to dispute it, but don't be surprised if it stays on there. Just don't. But I would definitely, in that 30 days, if you don't remember the judgment and it is kind of old, to try to figure out where it is and who has it and what court has it. Yeah. Definitely try to find out all that information. So when it does come back, you know exactly what you need to do. Or before it comes back, you do what you need to do. So, FYI, definitely do that. Let's say, if you're not willing to pay, don't give them no information. None. If you're not willing to pay, don't give them an updated phone number. Don't give them the updated address. Don't give them none of that information. Let them skip trace you and find it out for themselves. Let them do the work. Don't give them that information freely. You're not going to pay it. They're being nasty. They're being rude. They're not willing to work with you. So you pay it when you feel like paying it, basically. It's already on your credit report. What more damage could they do? They already did it. All of those tips that I just gave you are ways to repair your credit report. Simple, easy, not hard at all. Make sure that you keep the list of the ones that you disputed that we wrote on that sheet of paper, because when you get your new updated credit report, you want to see what changes actually took effect. So remember, on that sheet, you wrote down the credit card name or the debt name, okay, because it's not always credit cards, but the debt name, the amount that they say that you owe, and what you're disputing or what you put in the dispute. And just so you know, it don't matter what you put in that dispute box, really. It doesn't matter what you check. I never got a bill. I don't think this belongs to me. I don't owe it. There was somebody else that was on the dang on card, or someone else that was joint with me that owes it, whatever. Just click whatever. The point is, they got to prove it. That's it. They got to prove it. Even if you click that you never got a bill, they got to prove that they sent you some bills. They got to go in their system and prove that they sent you some bills, some invoices. And if they can't, it's getting deleted. So, keep that in mind. Again, I'm not saying don't pay your bills on time. I'm definitely not saying to let things go into collections. That's not what this is about at all. But life happens, things happen, and sometimes money is scarce. So, you got to do what you got to do. If you're repairing your credit report after bankruptcy, go for those cards for people that have bad credit. But keep in mind, which is something that I just learned and I'm passing on to you, because when I was 20, I filed bankruptcy. I filed a Chapter 7, believe it or not, when I was 20. Me and my ex had brought a car together, or he brought me a car. I think he brought me a car, but I was on it. And we went racing. He had a Mustang, and he brought me a new car off the lot too. Was it a Mustang? But anyway, and we went racing on the highway, and well, he, of course, in his Mustang took off, and I winded up hitting the guardrail, flipped over a couple of times, and crashed my new car, totaled it completely. But I still owed on it. It was on my credit report. Then I had some medical bills, and I had a couple of apartments. When I was younger, I just left apartments, or if I lost my job, I just got evicted and let them put it on my credit report, and I didn't freaking care. So, and back then, and I don't know how it is now, but the only thing you could not put in a bankruptcy was your student loans. You could put everything in a bankruptcy. The only thing you couldn't do was your student loans. So I did. I put literally everything. I had credit cards that I couldn't pay, that I had high balances on. I went shopping. I didn't care. I didn't pay them. So I put everything in there. So after my bankruptcy, I worked hard to repair my credit, because it's basically starting with a clean slate. It's like you have no credit. And so the only credit that I had was my student loans, which didn't show really anything. Didn't show good or bad, just that I had it. And I was in deferment, so I wasn't making payments. So again, it didn't show good or bad. It was just there. So I got those credit cards for people that have bad credit. Now, this is the tip that I'm going to tell you. I kept them for a long time. Now, the thing about credit cards for people that have bad credit, even if you don't have a balance, they will charge you a monthly membership fee. I thought that's what all credit cards did. I didn't know. So even if I didn't have a balance, I got charged $3 or $7 a month, still a membership fee, just for having that credit card. When I went to go look for a house and I met with the realtor, she told me, or the person that pulled my credit report told me that, there's credit cards where you don't get charged a monthly fee, right? And I was like, no. I was like, you sure? I was like, because I thought all of my credit cards charged me a monthly, every single one charged me a monthly fee. So I thought all credit cards were like that. She was like, no, like American Express and like Discover and stuff like they don't charge a monthly fee, and your credit is good. Like, I don't understand why you don't have those credit cards than these credit cards. Well, I got these credit cards when my credit was crappy and I couldn't get American Express or Discover. So she had me basically close all of those credit cards. Now, at first I was like, okay, now I'm going to close all these daggone credit cards. Now, and I know about credit. These are cards that I've had for a very, very long time, which everyone always says to you, you never close the credit cards that you've had for a long time. So I learned the hard way. I paid them off, or they were paid off, and I closed them. My credit score dropped. It didn't drop like a lot, but it dropped. It dropped, okay? And let's just say I was in the mid 700s, and then I dropped to like 700, okay? So, yeah, it dropped because they were my longest running credit cards. But she had me close them because whether it's $3, $7, whatever it is a month that they charge you, that's still debt. It still takes away from your monthly income. So if you have $5, $3 of it's going to Capital One. Or if you have $10, $7 of it's going to First Premier. So once you get your credit to a place that you like, which is, if I had known this back then, I would have done it. You get those credit cards to start you off. But once you have it for like 2-3 years and your credit score is like looking good and you've never been late and this is like your credit is good, close them. Pay them off, close them. Don't keep them. Then look for credit cards that you don't have to have a minimum monthly payment or a membership fee on, okay? Those are the credit cards you want to keep and keep long running. So that way when you are looking for a house or a car or whatever, those will be your oldest credit cards, not the ones you had when you had bad credit. Because if I had known that, I would have only kept the ones for bad credit for 2-3 years to get my credit where I needed to be, and I would have closed them. But instead, I kept them for 20-something years. But yes, that's also something that I learned the hard way. So I hope why am I saying hope so low? I hope. Okay, so, well, I have a couple more videos that I have to do. I have a My Favorites video that's coming up, and I have a Target haul that's coming up. So I need to go ahead and get started on those. So I hope that this video has helped you tremendously. Definitely comment and leave me any suggestions or any questions that you have if you want me to get more in depth regarding this process. The sites that I was telling you about to access all 3 credit reports and all 3 credit scores, again, you want to keep them. Pay that $12 a month, keep them. So that way you can always know if they will send you an alert if something hits your credit report. So that way they'll send you a text message or they'll send you an email and let you know, hey, somebody just looked at your credit, check this out. So that way you can be on it and know about it immediately. So you can dispute it, call it, get it removed ASAP. So definitely keep the membership. It's an investment, really, because you never know what you're going to need your credit for. I mean, we know house, car, the things that everyone has goals for in life. But when you have kids and things like that, you may want to finance their college education, and so that they don't have to go to college or graduate from college with debt. You may want to go ahead and take care of that for them. You're going to need good credit for that. So you want to keep good credit for as long as you possibly can. And again, just if you have any questions, comments, anything I can help you with, or if you want to see a video on something that you think I might know about, because believe it or not, I know a lot about a lot of stuff. I've been through a lot. Savings, anything, just let me know. Comment below and I will get back to you, and keep a lookout for those upcoming videos. So which I'm going to get started on right now, right after I edit and post this, or I may do it right now and then edit and post all of them at one time. So just stick around. We'll see what happens.